Hi, this is Mark News from Plant Talk Radio. Thanks for subscribing and listening to our podcast, Your Gardening Questions from Plant Talk Radio. To help keep this podcast free, we're partnering with Stoke Seeds. More than just a listing of vegetable and flower seeds, the Stoke Seeds website is a complete resource center with valuable information on seed starting, planting, and harvesting, plus all the gardening accessories you need to make your garden the envy of the neighborhood. Pre-order your free 2018 gardening guide today from stokeseeds.com, cultivating successful growers for generations. We'll have more to come from Stoke Seeds in the next few weeks. Now, on to today's question.
Welcome to a special edition of Your Gardening Questions podcast. I'm Brett Johnson, sales manager for Plant Talk Radio, as well as our podcasts that do include Your Gardening Questions. We are at the Midwest Green Industry Experience, the MGIX in Columbus, Ohio. That's presented by the Ohio Nursery and Landscape Association. We are now talking with Brian McCall from Bobbex. Thanks for joining me.
Very welcome. Glad to be here.
Let's talk a little bit about the history of Bobbex before we get into the details.
Happy to. It's a very interesting story that people ask me all the time, why the name Bobbex? Well, Bobbex, he started the company 30 years ago, and he was a Depression kid that when he grew tomatoes, he grew 30 plants, and all his vegetables he canned and saved and waiting for the next depression. So, the deer became a problem in the early 80s. He created his own product with such great success that his friends and other people told him, he should sell this product and make some money. Well, that was a good idea for Bob. Not very good at marketing. His high school nickname was Bobbex, Bobbexity. He called it Bobbex. And as the sales manager across the Canada, United States, I wish his nickname had deer in it in some way. It would have made my job much easier.
True. Well, speaking of that, of course, repellents, we always think of deer, but there are a lot of other animals we want to keep out of our garden, out of the yard and such. Let's talk about the line of repellents that Bobbex has.
That is right. Deer is probably the number one animal problem, but small animals have become very much a problem as well. Squirrels, rabbits, groundhogs, especially groundhogs. People are having trouble with the groundhogs in their gardens, and they are a kind of a very hard animal to repel because they are, they're tougher animals. So Bobbex has a Bobbex R line that does very well with the small animals, the rabbits, groundhogs, and squirrels.
You even have a goose repellent.
We do have a goose repellent, and it's been very popular with a lot of municipalities where the droppings of the geese have made parks almost uninhabitable because of the droppings of the goose problem.
You also have a line of repellent for rose repellent, but not necessarily the animal repellent, but insect repellent for rose.
That's an interesting product. It is a deer and insect repellent. It's a kinder, gentler Bobbex. Now, if people have used Bobbex, they know that it repels by smell and by taste and has a different odor to it. If a person is a tea rose grower, their joy in life is to grow their roses and bring them in the house on a Saturday, maybe for a dinner party. If you use regular Bobbex, that's not going to happen. Well, the Bobbex Rose is a kinder, gentler deer and insect repellent, and it has 4 essential oils. And one of them is geranium oil, which has been found to be a tremendously effective repellent for Japanese beetles. But what it does is this. If you're using our Bobbex deer and insect repellent steadily on your roses, because roses change daily with new buds, old buds, and leaf growth, that you're constantly spraying it with the Bobbex rose repellent, it makes the rose bush uninhabitable for aphids, whiteflies, sawflies. And most people address their rose problems once these insects hit. So it stops it before it happens.
You mentioned a little bit about the smell that comes with the repellent, obviously, and that's with most repellents. But let's talk about what, if you're a first-time repellent user, what you're going to expect, how to apply, and think about the future of what you're doing in your yard as well.
Well, it really, we strongly believe at Bobbex that smells bad works best. And deer live by their nose, so they know danger and what's in the area by that. And so we make the bush or plant smell bad and taste bad as well. So we work both ways. A first-time user, I would think, would like to open up our product, not in the store, but once at home, and spray a plant away from their house, and then get used to it. The spray is really noticeable to humans for a day, maybe at the most. But another line that if you're going to have a party with your friends, you don't want to spray that day. You want to spray a couple days before the party because it is noticeable.
What season, what time of year, as we get into walk into spring, what's the timing? What would be a good time to start applying?
It depends on parts of the world, and I've talked to many people today about how bad the deer problem is in the Ohio Midwest, same as the Northeast. What we do is early, be proactive, start spraying right away. The minute I see daylilies pop up into the ground, the minute I see hosta buds, I start applying right away. If I don't personally, the deer will come by at night and eat them. And then early season, much more applicating because of rapid growth. If you have a hosta plant that's 8 inches and you spray it at 8, it's protected. When it grows to 12 or 14 inches, you've got 6 inches of unprotected growth. So twice a month in growing season. But once your landscape is set, we're very comfortable with 2 months, every 2 months. And then that should give you protection year round. Repelling animals now is a full-time job. And it's not the old days when losing that deer cute. That deer's got to get out of my yard. So you've got to do it all the time, or you do not have plants.
Where can our listeners find Bobbex?
Bobbex is sold not in the big boxes, only through independent garden centers and hardwares, and it is available online as well.
What's the web address?
www.bobbex.com.
Thanks for being here.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks again for listening to the podcast. If you have a question for Fred, go ahead and email us, fred@planttalkradio.com. And for the best selection of vegetable, flower, and herb seeds available, go to www.stokeseeds.com. Pre-order your free 2018 gardening guide today from stokeseeds.com. Cultivating successful growers for generations.